Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Friday evening's edition of The Lounge. I'm so happy to have you all here tonight. In the comments, I know the energy's been a little turbulent. Have you guys been feeling that the last couple weeks? I know I have. And we have a lot of big announcements tonight, and we have an awesome, awesome guest coming on with us. I cannot wait to talk about stillness and meditation because even as an intuitive, even as a medium for 25 years, I know it's hard to believe, and you probably all think that I sit here and sit with my arms crossed and cross-legged and meditate all day long, but I do not do that. I can't do that. Um, I believe in moving meditation because I move around a lot, I guess. But this is something that I'm not so great at. And you would think that, yeah, I have this job where I'm channeling all the time, and that's part of my life. But no, I'm just too scattered in my mind, which is probably why I do well at my job, but probably why I need more grounding and balance and meditation. So we're going to be talking about how to relax in a stressed out world tonight, and I'm so excited for that. So if you want to just let me know who's here, say hello. Hi, Sue. How are you? Good to see you here tonight. Say hello. I know think people are coming on slowly, but as soon as you come on, make sure that you say hello and get moving with the energy. So very excited that you're all here. I know it's been unsettling energy, but we're coming in to kind of make that energy a little more grounded, a little more settled. So I do have some very, very special announcements tonight. So if you stick around for the middle of the show, maybe the end of the show, we're going to be talking about number one, the energy forecast, the monthly energy forecast. You guys know it comes around the 15th of every month. I know you guys all wait for it because if it's like 7 o'clock on the night of the 15th, people are emailing me being like, where's our energy forecast? And sometimes it takes me all day to write it. So I don't mind that you do it. But the 15th monthly energy forecast, where I go over all the key dates for the energy, your best dates to take action for your key areas: love, romance, career, relocation, health, wellness, all that stuff, and where the energies are at. So if you're not on my email list, you need to go in the description of this video. Make sure that you sign up via the link in bio, link in video, the link folio, and you'll get the monthly energy forecast in your inbox on the 15th, which is next week. It seems like next week. And I have some other, an awesome opportunity for you guys to join me on a private free masterclass that I am doing called Mastering the Art of Momentum, which is the groundbreaking 3-step system that I developed that we are going to be unveiling very, very soon. And I'm going to be putting a link in the comments. So on Monday night, you guys can join me. You have to register. We need to know how many people are coming. But if you are looking for a breakthrough, plus Tom's meditation, we're going to talk about that too. But if you're looking for a transformation, you're looking for a breakthrough, this is the masterclass to come and join. So I'm going to be talking to you about that as well. So make sure that you sign up for the email list and make sure you are getting the monthly energy forecast, because if you do it on the 16th, you're not going to get November's monthly energy forecast. Awesome. So if you're here tonight, you're listening and you're tuned in, I cannot wait to introduce you to our special guest, who I would like to get to know too, because we didn't get to talk a little bit before the show. So I'm just meeting him for the first time myself, but I went to his website and he seems like an amazing individual. He has some retreats going on himself, and it seems like he's really helping a lot of people meditate. So I'm very excited about that. So here's some questions for you, right? Ever wish that you had the capacity to sit in stillness and enjoy the silence? And I was a big Depeche Mode fan. So when I wrote this back in the 80s, I'm like, oh, enjoy the silence, Depeche Mode song. Yeah. If you guys are, brought up in the 80s, you'll know that reference. You'll laugh and you'll realize that that's funny. But if you're like a millennial and, you grew up like in 1999 or something, you probably won't get what I'm talking about. But I know for some of you highly sensitive people, sometimes you have a hard time with all the scattered energy plus the intuition and all that to slow down. So if you'd like to slow down, take a breath, and really learn how to bring stillness to your inner world, our special guest, Tom Chronin, is the guy, the master, the teacher, the transformational guru. And he's probably sitting backstage right now being like, oh, she's blowing me up way too much right now. But it's true. So you're going to get to meet our special guest for the evening, Tom Chronin. And Tom Chronin has already inspired over 1 million people. 1 million. That's a lot of people. Okay. 1 million people to meditate. Now, wait, not only to meditate, because anybody could get taught how to like put a basketball in a basketball hoop or play the guitar, play a few chords or swim in a pool. But do you like it? Probably not. Do people like meditating? Probably not. Let's go back over it again. Tom Chronin has already inspired over 1 million people to meditate and enjoy it. So that's where we're going. We're going to enjoy it. And I don't believe it until I see it, because I'm a little skeptical about that. So Tom's a transformational coach. He's a meditation teacher, author, speaker, and film. That's how we say it in Northeast Pennsylvania. Film producer. Oh, this, I know, so weird. If you're in Scranton, you know what I'm talking about. So Tom Chronin spent 26 years in finance markets as one of Australia's leading bond and swap brokers. I don't know what a swap broker is, but I'm interested. He discovered meditation in the early stages of his career. So I'm assuming if he was in bonds and stocks and finance, he probably wasn't in a very meditative environment. It was probably very high stress, high pressure, go. But he discovered this in the early stages of his career when the anxiety and chaos he was experiencing has hit a crisis point. And I think we've all been there. If you're looking for a transformation, we've all been there. We've all had the breakdowns. We're all looking for that breakthrough. And we've all experienced that point in time when the anxiety has gotten like just way too much to handle. And he had a crisis point, and it completely transformed his world, both personally and professionally. He is the founder of the Stillness Project, a global movement to inspire 1 billion people to sit in stillness daily. Tom is passionate about reducing stress and chaos in people's lives. He just wants to do it. His ongoing work in transformational leadership coaching and corporate training has seen him working with some of the top companies in the world, like Amazon, Qantas, UBS, and Coca-Cola. He has spoken on stage at conferences and events like New Summit, A-Fest, Wanderlust, and Mind Heart Connect. Tom has 6 books published, a meditation app, and produced the hit film, The Portal. You're going to get his free book on how to reduce anxiety and overwhelm by listening to this show. So we're going to tell you how to get to Tom's website, get your book, and everything else. So some of the key topics we're going to be talking about tonight: how to reduce stress and live a happier life, why meditation can change your life and world, and how to find your passion and purpose. So without further ado, let us bring on Mr. Tom Chronin. How are you?
Thanks for such a glowing introduction.
Yes,
very delighted to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and great to share space and company with everyone.
Awesome. Well, how are you doing over there in the other side of the world?
I'm great. It's been a Saturday morning here. I've had some coaching clients. I spent some time at the beach, went for a swim. It's a gorgeous sort of pre-summer day, and I'm about to go to a wedding straight after this for another coaching client of mine who's getting married.
Oh, so you actually that connected with your coaching clients that you're going to their weddings?
Yeah,
wow.
I kind of I like to connect in with them, and I guess some of them really appreciate, or hopefully most of them really appreciate what I contribute to their life, and some of them like to invite me to things like their weddings and birthdays and stuff like that.
So you don't see, before I even get into your interview and stuff, you don't see that often where you're paying somebody for a service like your therapist, or like, can you imagine? Be like, oh yeah, my therapist is at the other table down here at the wedding, or like your coach or somebody that you're paying to consult with. You don't see them on the wedding invitation. So you must be making like a big difference in people's lives, that they feel that connection with you, that you've helped them with such a transformation. And I'm assuming if they're invited to the wedding, like, are you helping people find people to like marry and stuff too? Like, is this happening? Like, are you helping people find love?
Well, interestingly, I'm also coaching the woman. I was coaching her, and then she met this guy and they started dating. And now I coach him as well, because she thought I'm such a good coach that maybe I could help him as well. So it just seemed to, I didn't actually, I don't think I played, to some degree, maybe some role in them getting connected, but I don't think I really introduce them and let them, find
Oh
each
my
other that
God.
way.
It's so classic, like the woman being like, "Oh, I know who could change you. This coach, go. You want? Yeah, he can tell you how to make me happier in life, right?"
I'll claim
So
some responsibility in that we got her to change her set of values and change her frequency, change her vibration. And as you know, in this field, when you change your frequency to a higher level, change your vibe to a higher level, then you start attracting in high quality experiences. And one of them was that
yeah,
she called in and attracted in a greater caliber masculine counterpart to her. So I'll claim a little bit of credit there, not too much, but just a little bit.
all right. Well, let's just back that milk truck up a minute. So you're talking about. I love what you're saying, and I have to. I'm just these are little pieces of wisdom that I don't just want to like steamroll over them.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get to that concept. Once you raise your vibration higher in any form, whether you do the meditation with moving meditation or whatever practice you have, you're pulling in it. You don't have to force yourself to go out and get these opportunities, right? You're actually magnetizing these opportunities to you. So they almost come to you kind of like just very easily, right? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, we've got it about the wrong way, and has been that way for a long time on the planet, which is that I come from a place of lack, and if I can fill that lack in with more experiences or acquisitions, if I can get more clothes and more cars, more Bitcoin, more houses, whatever, then
More Bitcoin,
then
yeah.
then that lack will be less. I'll have less lack, and I'll have more fullness.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because we're coming from a place of lack, we keep repelling the thing that we're trying to attract because we're in a state of lack, and the laws of attraction deem that what you are is what you attract. And so we're in this constant craving and searching and constantly needing more and more and more, but never really getting to that place. And so we come from a very different dynamic here, where if we can change our inner state, we'll start to change our outer state. And it's got to be about that way. And so my work is really to help people realize the fullness of being within them, which is their spiritual quality, their divine nature, which doesn't have lack. It doesn't experience emptiness. It doesn't experience loss or, craving. And if we can get them to connect with that, ideally through whatever modality is best for them. But for me, what I teach is meditation, where we transcend the ego construct, which is where the lack is embedded, and we transcend that and experience the fullness of the divine. Then from that resonance, from that vibration, we start to find that we call in and attract greater fullness of life in the outside world as well.
It's awesome. I love that you're bringing in that change in vibration and that transformational ability. And it's interesting. The more and more I take my audience through these portals of transformation and having all these guests on that are raising frequency, raising vibration, it's like every segment of every 3 months of our show, we keep attracting higher level transformational people to come on the show to guide our audience, to guide them through to that next level of transformation. Now, we do talk a lot about trauma on the show because a lot of highly sensitive individuals are very intuitively gifted, but usually remain disconnected throughout their life because they're disconnected from the body, but they have to develop that high intuition from that early energy environment. Sometimes I don't like to use the word trauma because sometimes people, it's kind of a dark word. So I like to call it an energy disruption, that the flow of energy was disrupted early in life, and there's a space there. There's something that needs to be filled. And the cycles continue to repeat because of that reason. So with your work, people can raise the vibration, but for highly sensitive, very intuitively talented individuals with a history of the energy disruption, how does your work kind of play into like people who do have trauma?
Yeah, trauma is a physiological and emotional, energetic, disposition or abnormality that has happened as a result of some experience that we've gone through, either previous lifetime or this lifetime. It could be genetic trauma that's being passed down through the code. It could be reincarnated trauma that you've had in a previous lifetime that you're carrying through in this lifetime, or it could be this lifetime that you've had the trauma. Now, you can have the memory of an experience which means it's great if you have the memory of the experience, because then you can write a book about it, you can talk on stage about it, you can use the example of that experience as a powerful way to help other people become transformed by relating that story of where you were and where you are today in a really powerful way. Where it becomes a problem is when the energy of that trauma in the physical body has not been cleared. And so what's really important is that we work on the integration of an awakened spiritual experience into the physical body. And so I just did an Instagram post, interestingly, 2 days ago about this, that enlightenment as a concept isn't enough. You know, we have to actually embody it. We have to walk and talk it. We have to live and breathe it, where the purification on the physiological level and energetic level has happened simultaneously with a spiritual experience that we can be having on a conscious level. And so how do we do that? You know, we do that first and foremostly through a deep level of physiological rest that comes when we do certain meditations. So that's the transcending meditations. And I heard when I was in the back room, you were talking about, you know, I can only do moving meditations. Not to dismiss or discredit that, and moving meditations are really beautiful and powerful. But what's really important is that we get complete stillness, and that stillness of mind and body. And what happens when we transcend the physical and mental and emotional realm, we access the profound level of what we call transcendence, or in Sanskrit it's called turiya, the fourth state, beyond physical, mental, and emotional. When we get into a state of conscious awareness where I'm not thinking, but I'm still awake, what happens is, first and foremost, is we get a level of physiological rest that's so profoundly deep that the body's level of intelligence then starts to really get into that restoration and repair state. It's very hard for the body at a cellular level to actually repair and reorganize itself at a higher level to get that congruency with that spiritual experience. You might have a profound divine experience, but we need to get the body into a deep level of physiological rest so that it can actually then start to purify and purge. So on a minor level, what I teach people is this deep level of physiological rest that we get in meditation, in the transcending meditation. So we want to get that happening, but also when we take that to the next level on our retreats, where we do things like your breath work, your yogasana, which is specific yoga postures for spinal twists, neck twists, ankle and knee openers, hip openers, because that's where we hold a lot of that trauma in those energetic pockets. So trauma itself is, like we said, it's an energetic and physiological experience. Now we can clear the trauma out. And once that trauma is cleared out of the physiology, the recall of the experience is fine. And it's actually healthy to be able to recall. It's like, yeah, I remember I had this experience and now I'm having this experience, and I can write a book about that, and I can help you transform because I can talk about that openly without having the energetic distortion that happens as a result of me talking about that experience.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about, you know, if people do remember that trauma, they could transcend it, and then they can go and talk about it, talk about their experience. But I could tell you many forms of mine, there's no memory connected to it. It's all in the body somatically. So, you know, when I would get a trigger, it's like there's no real stuff, just starts happening in the body that really is cyclical and it couldn't calm down. And so I must have taken about 10 years. I went to about 15 different people, went around the world trying to fix this, and I could tell you that nobody was able to do it, you know, permanently. So it's a very different world when you have the energy stuck in the body somatically, and people don't realize that's what's going on when they're getting triggered, or they have heart racing, or they have pain in their body, or your adrenaline spikes, your cortisol spikes, you're spacey, you're disconnected. And you're like, where is this even coming from? Because there's no memory. And then you're dealing with people who are highly intuitive, which is most of our audience. So you have people who, you know, like me, are work in that field of intuition, but yet the body is not in that rest state. So you're dealing with a lot of contradictions going on there. So what would you say for the people that experience more somatic symptoms and they just won't turn off when they're triggered? And there's nothing, I mean, I could sit there in meditation when that happens, and it doesn't go away. It actually gets worse, you know, or I could take a walk or whatever, but it's a really interesting, probably in the subconscious, I'm assuming.
It's in the physiology. Yeah, it's still in the physiology, because the symptoms you're getting are physiological. It's not in the subconscious. The memory can be in the subconscious. It can be in the intellect. But the challenge you're having here is, like you said, and like many people listening most likely as well, these sensations of trauma reactivation are
Yeah.
happening in the body. That's PTSD. So we do need to do a lot of work to somatically clear that out. Meditation alone, like I said, it's deep meditation isn't something you do when you're having the triggered
Yeah, right.
traumatic response. Yeah,
Yeah.
those things are. It's not that time. It's like having a car crash and having someone do therapy on you. That's time for
Yeah.
paramedics, right? And the
Yeah.
smash guys. So when what we have to do is we have to take a long approach and a long intentional approach to making a commitment to clear the physiology of these lower frequency toxins. They're basically vibrations that operate at a low level. So if we take the Hertz frequency chart, if you just Google love frequency chart, you'll find that there's measurable Hertz that are vibrations. And we've got shame, guilt, anger, rage, all those ones in low frequencies from 20 up to sort of 75, up to 100. We've got really high frequencies from love and above, which is 500 Hertz to sort of 700 Hertz, which is love, bliss, peace, ecstasy, joy, enlightenment. And so what we have to do is we have to have activities and practices that are going to help purge and purify the body of those lower frequencies. And that can be anything from breath work. Definitely yoga plays a part. Purification with foods. Any activities, exercise obviously is important. Meditation still plays an integral role if we're doing the deep transcending meditations. We've got to get that physiology into deep levels of rest so that can help purify and purge. The one thing that I find is the most effective out of all the things that I've been doing and teaching is this beautiful ancient practice in the Vedic tradition called rounding. Now, rounding incorporates 4 limbs that we do on retreats. We take people away out of their world where they're highly stimulated and there's a lot of excitation in the body. And we take the body into retreat and we put it through a very intense process, which is some yoga asana, specific yoga practices to help unlock those tension blocks in the physical body. Then we do breath work, then we do the meditation, then we do shavasana. We'll do multiple rounds back after back, up to sometimes in one day, not to put people off this, but it's up to 10 hours worth of rounding. That's yoga, breathwork, meditation, yoga, breathwork, meditation. And what happens is we start finding the body really unlocking and releasing within 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, some of these really deep physiological stresses. So people then are having that emotional clearing. Now, the thing that is hard for a lot of people is that they don't want to have that sensation again. They had that sensation when they had that experience in the first place. They don't want to have to relive it. So they push it down, and then it stays stuck in the body in a somatic way. And so we create a very safe place to say, let this come out. This is like a pussy boil that needs to be purged. And so we have to allow the body the right to release and have to allow to be present in the watching and the just sitting present with that releasing process, not identifying it as good or bad, just observing it independently and objectively that there is a release happening and allowing that flow. And once that comes out, it's gone. There's whatever's being released has been gone then. And so letting that come out is really, really important part of the process. But absolutely, we do need to attend to this on a physiological level.
Yeah. And I mean, back many years ago when I started to work with trauma coaches myself, they would just say, okay, let's just do some exercises with the body. Like, let's get out of the thinking realm. Let's just close your eyes, and immediately dissociation. Immediately they're like, wow, you can't even do some of these somatic exercises because you're immediately dissociating. So it's almost like, how can you get somebody through, pushing through that to like actually start to actually come deep into the body and do what you're talking. I know restorative yoga is very helpful. I mean, I really find that to be very helpful for me. It's restorative yoga.
Yeah, look, yoga in the yin space is really powerful, but I think we need to take it to the next level. And what is to give us a very direct experience into the absolute fundamental truth of who we are, beyond our story, beyond what's in the physical body, beyond the future, beyond our personality, beyond our physicality, and realize that our absolute fundamental truth and quality is divinity. And the direct experience of that through a transcending meditation, first and foremost, gives us this stability and this foundation okay, I'm not this, I'm that. I'm that, which is the non-change, the permanent, the unbounded, the infinite. And when we start to stabilize the awareness and the experience of me being that, because divinity doesn't have trauma, divinity doesn't have pain, divinity doesn't have angst. That's something that is energetically trapped in a physiological body that you're currently using and borrowing whilst divinity is expressing itself as you through this form. So when we can get them to stabilize with the security and the safety of knowing that whatever sensation arises is not them, they are the divine, which is beyond physical, mental, and emotional as an expression. And that when we start to have that releasing, then we don't have to disassociate and go, yeah, that's my vehicle going through a purification, and that's okay. That's a really healthy thing. And so we can really embody and embrace and be open to the idea and to the process of that clearing by stabilizing the essence of who we are first. I think that's critical.
Yeah.
Because if we just think we're the feelings and we just think we're the physical body, then there's going to be some resistance and some almost repulsion to the idea of it.
Right. And so have you seen people that have a level of trauma or PTSD or even a small level of trauma or even large? Have you seen them actually break that cycle of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, many times. On most of my retreats, someone's releasing something. In fact, every retreat, there's someone releasing something. So last retreat, we had 2 people release very, very severe traumas. One was a guy who was a big, tough builder guy. And he released some very, very intense traumatic stuff about him as a little boy. And then a woman who, for many, many years, would have to lock herself in a cupboard while her father was beating her mother up quite violently. And so this purging, this releasing was just so beautiful and so powerful. And we just held space while the screaming and the crying and the clearing was happening. Now, I need to pre-frame this because it's important that people understand this is a very vulnerable process to go through. But we had done a lot of preparation prior to that and given them a lot of meditation experiences to really stabilize the deep sense that, hey, you're just the divine having this experience and you need to purify your body. So there's a congruency with your high frequency of your divine quality and the low frequency of your body getting into the high frequency alignment where your body and your consciousness are congruent now, and there's an alignment there. And so for the body to be in alignment with the high frequency of your consciousness, the body has to be purged of those low frequency energies.
Wow. Okay. So I'm assuming and I may be assuming incorrectly, but for people to come to your retreat that you're doing, they may have to go through some work ahead of time to get to that level where they're ready to let go. Because I know that there were layers of my work that I went through. There were layers and layers and layers of work before I was really ready to release stuff. You know what I mean? Or do you think that people could just come in and not have done any work and come to do what you're teaching?
They can come in at any, we have people starting from, ground zero coming into the retreats that have never done any work with me before. Some people walk straight onto a retreat and I've never met them in my life. And we take them through that process. But what's important in that process is that they integrate, and part of that process is that we do this deep transcending meditation, because it's something that we get caught up in our human egoic world, and we're excluding the truth, which is, we call it ritam, the sacred truth. It's a non-changing truth. It's an absolute truth. It's not a truth that's written in the New York Times. It's not a truth that's written in someone's book that someone subjectively had interpreted. What we're talking about here is the unbounded, infinite, non-changing state of reality at a divine quality. And so to have some degree of connectivity and stabilization of that really supports and helps facilitate that clearing. Now, it doesn't mean the clearing is going to be easy. It's going to be uncomfortable as that releasing happens, but it makes it a lot more, you get a greater sense of security and a greater sense of it's okay as you go through that and are able to watch it from that independent viewpoint.
Yeah. Wow. It's very powerful stuff. Joy has mentioned a comment here. She's saying, Shavasana after yoga makes me cry and cry and cry for some reason. So is there something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a classic example of what's going on here. And thank you for sharing that. It's really a very common experience where people have gone through, and this is the point of yoga. Yoga is not about, I want to look good, or I want to get buffed, or, I want to sweat. Yoga is really traditionally just as meditation is. And when you combine those two, particularly yoga, breathwork, and meditation, when you bring those together, the primary point of those is actually to clear. Enlightenment isn't something we get. We don't acquire enlightenment. We don't acquire spirituality. All we do is we clear, and we release, and we let go of everything that's not us, everything that's not the divine. And so in yoga, when we're doing the asana, working through the practices, those poses, those postures, that asana sequence was specifically put together for you to help clear all those lower frequencies that are not you. And so when we eventually get to Shavasana, and that's why Shavasana is such an important part of the practice, is that allows the body to just pause and go, okay, let's have a little look here, see what we've identified within this process that is an anomaly, that's not actually part of the makeup, and that's something that's been accumulated and collected that we need to let go of here. Okay, we've noticed some sadness here. That sadness is irrelevant. It's not meant to be in the body. Let's let that go of the body at this point in time. And so then that simple process of tears streaming down the eyes is the expenditure of that energy that needs to extract itself out of the body.
Interesting. I remember I was doing restorative yoga one time, and they did a hip opener, and I just started, I'm like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed in class, because I'm not a cry, I'm pretty have self-control, over my emotions, I think. And so when that happened, the teacher just give me tissues. She's like, let's let it. I'm like, what's going on? Nobody ever told me this would happen. You know what I mean? But it just started to come out.
Yeah. We've got to think about what an emotion is. I mean, emotion is energy in motion. And for most of us, that energy didn't move in the motion at that time. When we were sad, when we were scared, when we were angry, we were told, don't be sad, don't be afraid, don't be angry as kids. Or when we were adults, we're in a boardroom or a family function, and, we can't express ourselves all the time as freely as we should when that energy needs to move through the body, and we're supposed to release tears or we're supposed to scream and shout. We don't. And so that energy didn't get to flow in motion. So the emotion didn't flow, which means that it's trapped in the body as potential energy waiting to convert to kinetic energy. And so when we get into a hip opener and that energy suddenly gets unlocked and the bubble bursts in that enclosed nature of the hips, then, and this is why we do a lot of hip openers in our retreats, is so that bubble pops almost, and that energy needs to flow now. And so you just it will just come out of the eyes, which is healthy. We just say embrace it and let it flow.
Interesting. So I want to hear a little bit more about you, Tom, and your process. And have you had any type of trauma in your life, or any type of, breakdowns or anxiety or stuff that's really was difficult for you to get through? What led you to leave finance and kind of go in this direction?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there.
Sorry. Let's just break it down.
Good.
I'll break it down further. So have you had, I'm talking about people with trauma. I'm talking about people that have had early life disruptions or energetic experiences. Some people that are highly sensitive, having stuff going on. Have you experienced things to that level in your life where you were able to transcend that?
Yeah, so I'm going to shift the word trauma to stress. Okay. I've had a lot of stress accumulation in my body. And because some people might think of trauma as I was raped or I had a car crash or something, but it can be just simply an accumulation of stress in the body over time. And that can lead to extreme distortions. And so for me, I had extreme panic attacks, extreme anxiety, extreme insomnia. And this morphed into a really deep, dark depression, which eventually blew up into extreme addictions.
Yeah.
And that eventually led to a full-blown nervous breakdown at the age of 29. And so I was put on suicide watch. I was seeing psychiatrists, put on medication, seeing doctors and psychologists. And at that point, I was taking the route of Western medicine, which is just talking and talking and talking and medicating. And I just felt deeply inside me that wasn't the path for me. And this is not to discredit it if it is the path for someone else.
Right.
I just felt that something just wasn't right with that model. It just didn't seem like that was really getting to the root cause of the problem here. And so it was interesting, maybe some divine intervention that I came across, meditation that led me to yoga. And I started to go down a very different path, which was to start to do, my yoga, my breathwork, my meditation. And it was phenomenal. It was literally a game changer. Within weeks, even days, I started to notice differences. And I no longer needed to see the psychiatrist or psychologist or doctors or the medication. And I found myself going through lighter and lighter experiences, purging more and more of the stresses in my body But it was not until I was actually doing a very advanced retreat once that I had a very extreme clearing, purging, I guess, releasing of many years of taking lots of drugs. I was really big into recreational drugs, mainly just because I loved partying. You know, it was sort of 1980s, 1990s, and I was in finance, and it's kind of what everyone did.
Mhm.
But my body, that was a trauma on my body. So anything like that is just a trauma in the body. It's not a natural alignment with the physiology. And so that was a stress in the body that the body had to purge and clear out of the system. And so that was a really strong weekend of releasing a lot of the old stresses. We call them samskaras. Samskara is an embellishment left in the body from a previous experience. And it could be anything from fatigue to a hangover to, you know, stress, scar tissue from drug abuse. It can be something that happened to you traumatically, like a car crash, or it could be something that happened that was quite, you know, an abusive situation that happened when you were younger. So these samskaras, the body is very powerful at clearing them out. And yeah, that was an experience that I went through one weekend on a retreat.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that you had stress, but that sounds like a, a lot of stuff
There's
that
a
you
lot of
went.
stuff, yeah.
I mean, that's trauma to me. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a good resume for it. If you put your resume in front of me, I'd be like, yeah, this guy's gone through some stuff here. Yeah, I mean, you know, trauma or stress left unchecked could lead to the addictive cycle. Absolutely. And then, you know, a lot of my clients have gone through recovery and addictions and all that, you know, mostly highly sensitive people, you know, people who are intuitive. It just is the way. And it seems like a lot of people who do then get the recovery from the substances and take that out. I don't think, you know, there's a lot of addressing of the trauma that does come up after that. And then the behaviors are still there. And they're like, well, why, you know, so much better physically, not doing any of these addictive things, but yet my life is becoming more and more of a mess. Why is that? And people keep playing out those same cycles and patterns, usually in their relationships, whether that's friendships, family relationships, codependent relationships, you know, partnerships. That's where I see most of the patterns and the triggers that continue to bring those wounds up seem to be in more intimate or family relationships. Is where I see those, you know, it's like something's trying to come up and then you get distracted, put it back down, get distracted, put it back down. So yeah, that cycle where it's like you just have to put down the drink or the drug and then everything's fine. Then it's like you don't have that numbing aspect anymore and you have to like, but then I don't think there's a lot of information out there that, you know, there needs to be treatment of trauma after that. So it just, people go into cycles and think that's all they have to do.
Yeah. There's plenty more.
Plenty more. But Benita has an interesting comment here, and I'd like to comment on this too. So that's interesting that people with no prior experience of self-healing would be able to join this type of intense retreat. And yeah, that was my question for Tom earlier, because I know that just experiencing a little bit at times of that trauma has put me into full-blown like anxiety where I'm in a ball and I can't even like work the rest of the day, and things are so intense for me that I don't think I can even function. So it's like, just like now I have more capacity after doing so many years of the work, but at first I couldn't even handle just a little bit of what was coming up. So how would somebody handle that? You know, that's a good question that she has. Like, so how would somebody handle that that's never even touched the pain, like even in a tiny bit? You know, how would they handle that?
Yeah. You know, I've been running retreats for 10 years or more and taken hundreds of thousands of people through this process. Same with meditation as well, just teaching people to meditate. And we've never had any experience that people can't handle. There's nothing that we can't handle. It's just a matter of the awareness of the situation, and the relationship to the situation is really important. So the first thing that is really important is that we recalibrate the nervous system. The nervous system, when it's frazzled and fried, and then it's going through these intense processes, it's unstable. It's not a good foundation for that type of work. So the key component in the work that we do is get the nervous system de-excited. It's really critical that we create the transformation and the clearing through a de-excited nervous system, through deep physiological rest in the body. And the only way we can really get that deep physiological rest and restoration in the nervous system is by calming the mind and getting us out of the thinking process. So when we get the mind calmer, we get the body calmer, we get the nervous system into a deep state of rest. And then when the clearing starts to happen, there's already a good foundation and stability for that process to happen. So that, 10 hours of anxiety induced curled up in a ball doesn't happen. It's just like now we're releasing and clearing something out. It will pass quite quickly when we're not resisting and holding on to it. And then when we're in the process. So we find that we've never had anyone go through an experience once yet on a retreat that's not something that doesn't pass quite quickly as the clearing happens, and then just be present in it, just sit with that and allow it to just unfold. It can unravel quite quickly, and there's nothing that they can't handle as far as an experience. It's just the sensation. People will pay lots of money to go to a scary ride at a fun park or watch a horror film just to induce the idea of fear. And so if you're having an extreme sensation of fear, it's like, well, people do that all the time. They actually pay money to have that sensation of fear. So there's nothing wrong with the sensation of fear.
Didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So quite often the sensations that we have that we might not want, there's nothing wrong with them. They just need to be released. They just need to be untangled from the physiology. And eventually the physiology will start to become much more aligned as it clears more and more and more with that high level state of consciousness that we're starting to experience through our spiritual practices.
Yeah. And I think it's good that people are there when people are having these triggers, because there's been many times where I've been in a session and all of a sudden it's like nearing the end of the session and I'm dissociated, right? Or a trigger comes up or I'm emotionally upset. And it's like, okay, the session's done. And then you don't go back for a week and you leave the session completely feeling completely scattered and all over the place. And the anxiety's through the roof. And then you don't have anybody to like move you through that cycle of your nervous system being grounded. So I love the fact that you're talking about nervous system stability, because that's a big part of my work and what I help people with too. So the fact that you're talking about that being done first before you actually take somebody into the body, it's like, that makes more sense than just being like, okay, let's just take you in and see what happens. It's like, oh God, like that sounds so scary just for me to, but you're saying that you actually incorporate that regulation, that grounding before you start that releasing. So that's very cool. So let's talk about, and of course, anyone out there that's listening that has more questions, Tom is here to answer. So Tom, what would you like to talk about for like people that are here tonight that would like to know more about you and your work and what you do? We could put up your website. Is there anything you'd like to kind of talk about that you have coming up? Do you have any retreats coming up that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, we've got a couple of retreats in 2023. One really big, exciting one in Australia. So I don't know if you've got many listeners in Australia, but it's happening in June next year, which is a 4-day retreat in a large auditorium. So it's a really powerful experience where we're taking people over 4 days through one of those very powerful clearing processes. And then after that one in June here in Australia, we've got one in Greece next year in September, which is a really stunning experience that they'll be able to find all those details of that on my website. So those are the two main in-person experiences that we have in 2023. But a lot of my work is actually working with people in a coaching space and helping them realize their full potential, break free of those self-sabotaging patterns, break free of those limiting beliefs in the code of their mind, and to help them really start to realize the capacity that they have to serve at a higher level in the world and find that incredible sense of purpose and passion in their life.
Awesome. I mean, in Greece, where are you going in Greece?
It's an island called the Morgos. The resort actually reached out to me and said, look, your retreats look phenomenal. Would you like to run one here? When I saw the venue, I went, absolutely. I'd love to run a retreat there. So it's the next thing, we're going to Greece for a retreat. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We were supposed to have it last year, but of COVID, we couldn't get there. So 2023 is when it's happening.
Oh, well, I'd love to go to Greece. I've been there before and it's amazing. The private beaches and the moped, you get just rent a moped and drive around,
So much fun.
That's great. So are these retreats, is it tons of people or is it like limited to a certain number?
Yeah, they're quite limited. So Greece will only be 25 people. We keep them fairly intimate and small. The one in in Australia in June, that's around 100, 120 people. But definitely more longer retreats, like 7 days, we keep them fairly intimate and small, so we can really be with those people as they go through quite an intense process.
Awesome. Well, if you guys want to know more about Tom and his retreats either to Australia or Greece, please go to tomchronin.com. And what about the people here in the US? Like, what can we offer them? I know that they can get a free ebook, I think you said, on anxiety or stress. You had that here, I think, or
Yeah,
maybe I have.
absolutely. We've got a retreat, the ebook where people can access my
Yep.
Faster Did Become book. We've got meditation programs that they can access to help them get into that de-excited state so that their body can start to recalibrate. So we've definitely got some meditation programs. We've got a very big coaching program coming up for those people that want to become more transformational leaders. It's called the Zen Academy for Transformational Leadership, and it's a 12-week coaching program held online. And anyone all around the world can access that. That'll be coming out
Oh,
pretty soon. They can find that on my
wonderful.
website as well, under my coaching tab. And that will be starting in early 2023, which is a 12-week program for conscious leaders. And they'll learn everything from how to get their book written, how to speak on stage, how to run coaching programs, how to create online programs, how to run
Wow.
workshops. Yeah, anything and everything to help them create a conscious-led business. And if they want to, they can actually financially live off that if they wanted to.
So it's basically also you're giving them the tools as an entrepreneur
Absolutely. Yeah.
to actually build a digital business as well.
Yeah, because what I tend to find
Yeah.
happens with people once they go through the purification process. So a lot of people come to me because they're stressed, overwhelmed, got trauma, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Then they start meditating with me during my retreats. And what we find over time is that seeker in the process of seeking becomes a finder. It's like, wow, I found light, I found truth, I found wisdom. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was within me. And they start
Right.
to clear all those layers, like the clouds clear from the sky, revealing the beautiful bright light of the sun. And what happens then is there's a natural progression where those people who have got this remarkable story, they no longer have the somatic stresses attached to that story, which means they can be really great storytellers and get on stage and do talks about it. They can coach around it. They can run workshops around it, and they become powerhouses in the world. And so part of my work is to not just help people overcome their traumas, but to help those people that then want to use that storyline of their transformation. I was this and now I'm that, to then go and start to create an impact in the world. And so helping them set that up is an important part of what I do now.
And what is that called? Like what you're doing? That you're helping them move through to find themselves, and then you're building them into
Yeah,
what is that? I'm just trying to get the words for it because it sounds really cool.
well, I call it a 3-step process from seeker to finder to sharer. And generally what happens is we're seekers, and in the natural progression of seeking, if you walk into a dark room fumbling around for the light switch, at some point you're going to find it. So you will go from seeker to finder over time. And eventually the finders want to become sharers. They want to go, hey guys, you wouldn't believe what I discovered. I discovered XYZ, whether it's, how to overcome an eating disorder, or how to overcome not being able to conceive and eventually conceive, or how to overcome anxiety, how to overcome trauma, how to overcome. Everyone's got a story. And my first step in my process is to help them alchemize themselves from the lead to the gold. And then once they've done that, is how do you want to take that information, that incredible storyline that you've got, and that knowledge that you've acquired in the process of becoming transformed, how would you like to help other people do the same thing as you and set them up with a conscious-led business around that?
Yeah, helping them rebuild, because that's
Yeah.
a big thing, because when people, myself included, live your life through the lens of
Mm,
the
mm,
stress, the lens of the disconnection, the lens of the lack of presence, then you really don't know who you are and what you're capable of and your gifts. And when you're looking through the lens of a dysregulated nervous system, your story that you're telling yourself is, a lot of times I see most of my clients, they grew up in alcoholic households, they're going to become nurses. There's a
mm,
lot of nursing because it's like, I
mm,
know how to get sick people well. I want to see sick people getting well, you know what I mean, and take care of people. But really, those jobs are just a recreation of the cycle. I'm not saying everyone. So if you're a nurse out there that hasn't, I'm not saying every nurse, but there's a large percentage. And it's like, you ask them, is this your dream, or is it draining? It's like, well, this is what I feel like I'm meant to do, but I'm drained every day doing
mm,
this and taking
mm.
care of people. Like, but that's what is familiar to them. So it's
Yeah.
just really interesting that when I see people that go from that codependence to more of that interdependence and that independence, they realize, I need a career shift. I need to do things that are not like just draining me every single day and do stuff that makes me happy.
Mm.
So I understand what you're saying. It's not just, you know, let's just clear you, but it's like, let's rebuild.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
let's
Yeah.
take that blank canvas and let's rebuild and into something. There were so many things that when I came out of that dark space, I was like, I didn't even think I ever liked this. I would tell you hands down 10 years ago, I didn't like this, this, and this. I hated these things. And then I wake up one day, I'm like, oh my God, I love these things. Like what? I had no idea. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like when you get to meet yourself, it's such a beautiful process. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you have so much to share and you're really speaking from a higher frequency and a higher level, which is really amazing. And I really like everything you're saying. Um, you
Yeah,
can
one
also
thing I'd
find,
just like to share with your
yep.
community is that anyone that's going through a difficult time or has been through a difficult time, one thing I share with my coaching clients that are going into that transformational leadership space is that helping them see whatever their experience has been, however difficult it's been, is that you're acquiring, as painful as it might have been, you're acquiring a story, you're acquiring relevance, you're acquiring the ability to then create massive impact, because through your transformation, you have the capacity to connect and make, change in other people's lives. And so that's what we do is we turn that liability into an asset. The liability being, I'm a victim, I've had suffering, I've had this happen to me, and turn that into an asset. It's like, I can write a book now, I can stand on stage now, I can help other people transform now, because I'm not disempowered because of that experience. I'm empowered because of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we flip it, we completely transform it, and we mutate it or transmutate it. And so that's a really important step in the process.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I actually went back to the comment board here. It looks like we have some people that have a couple things. Avocado wisdom. Hey Tom, my facial muscles involuntarily move when I'm meditating. It doesn't take long when that happens. I love it. I know that's the connection. I just want to hear some validation from you.
Absolutely. We get a lot of twitching and spasms, just like when people are falling asleep at night. People will have that jolt or twitch or spasm, and the same thing happens when we meditate. And that's some clearing of stress. It's the connection, and it's a really important part of meditating. A lot of people don't realize that when we meditate, particularly those deeper styles of meditation, getting the nervous system and the mind and the body into deep states of rest, that unlocking and that releasing and that clearing can take on all sorts of twists and shapes and forms. And so we just embrace it and just let it flow. Whatever unravels is unraveling, and it's all healthy, it's all good.
Awesome. And Superstar Meeting Meets Master Teacher. Love this episode. Oh, thanks. You're the best. Thank you. Vanita's going to check it out. She loves it. So powerful, Tom. That's exactly how her podcast happened. That's exactly the process. Love the terminology. So this is awesome. Wow, I never knew about the twitching. Okay. Yeah, we have those releases. This is awesome. Well, thank you, Tom, so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we move on?
Look, if anyone wants to watch the film, it's called The Portal, and you can either go to my website, Tom Chronin, and scroll down, you'll find it there, or go to the website, entertheportal.com. And that film and book, there's a film and book, and we explored 6 real-life stories that are all having crisis or had crisis. And, we interviewed over 300 different stories for the film, and we ended up choosing 6 of those stories. And we look at the micro perspective of what it looks like for someone to go through crisis, but then transform as a result of the crisis, particularly using meditation as a vehicle or a tool to help them break free of the shackles of the situations and circumstances that put them into the crisis in the first place, and then leapfrog from the crisis into transformation. And then we look at the macro perspective in the film and in the book, using 3 futurists that really look at humanity's impending crisis and our crises that we go through as a collective, and how it's shifting our state of consciousness and shifting our state of awareness that's going to help us move into a new paradigm. And what we have ahead for us, if we've got individuals that can go through trauma crisis and transform and start to experience a higher level of existence, then collectively as a society, we can do that as well. And we know definitively in the Vedic tradition and the Vedic perspective that we're currently in a dark stage of the world called Kali Yuga, an age of ignorance, where we ignore this innate nature, we ignore our true state. But in Sat Yuga, the age of enlightenment that's coming our way, we'll have an entire society and species that's awake to that. And we're going to be having a much more aligned and harmonious less conflicted and less diseased planet when we start to do that.
Awesome. I think I have to have you on again, Tom, just because I think I have to
Sure.
have a part two, because I mean I could just go deeper and deeper and deeper into this
Yeah,
conversation. So I'd love to connect with you again. And I think our audience
absolutely.
really resonated with you and really loved having you on. I know I did. I have so many questions even more for you. I'm going to go to your website and check out all your retreats. And once again, thank you so much for coming on, Tom.
Pleasure. And look, reach out to me on Instagram at Tom Chronin. I'm more than happy to hear from anyone. You can just send me a direct message. I respond to all my messages and I see them all myself. It's my personal account. So by all means, feel free to connect with me there. And